Hello my friends, it's the 21st of November 2014, Mr. Max Bliss in the southwest of France. Now here we have a plane spraying an incredibly long, persistent contrail, which we believe to be a chemtrail. You can even see a start point there, a specific break, something happened there. We'll follow that all along. And there's a very, very long trail, and yet we can have some above us that have got shorter dissipating trails, although that one's not that short. Doesn't want to focus, okay. And that one's leaving pendules, where the material is evolving and it's reacting and changing and getting heavier and dropping, presumably ice crystals, stimulated by some chemicals, which is not that difficult. Just have a look at the skies. It's pretty foul when you consider that this has all come from the aviation industry. Got a great big one across there that's expanded out. You know, this is not what we used to see. You know, this is high altitude stuff, and basically there's very little moisture at higher altitudes, but what we're led to believe is a thin little chemtrail or contrail like that can expand into this huge cloud. That's what we're being asked to believe as a normal. Not the strange thing is we haven't always seen this all our lives. This has been something in development. This is and what we're seeing now is shocking. Especially when you live in rural France, where we used to have very fine weather, lots of blue skies. If we look to the old books, the tourist books and the history books about France, lots of pictures taken, as France is one of the most visited nations in the world, you will find that you don't spot any contrails at all until the very end of the 1990s. Interesting that, isn't it? Because France is also in the centre of Western Europe, and it has some of the busiest air corridors in the world. You know, you're serving England, Ireland, Scandinavia, Germany, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, all of it, all the nations. There are people flying from Britain to go to Greece or to North Africa if they want to go to Morocco or whatever. They're all flying across France, so you would have thought it would be reasonable to expect that. Interestingly, that plane must have flown through that cloud there, because it's cut a hole through it. Look at that, isn't that interesting? That plane, I don't know, there it is. In fact, its trail's getting much thicker now. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, basically, look, France has had some of the busiest air corridors in the world, as indeed did South of England when I was growing up. And we just did not see great big long persistent trails that may go on for many, many, many kilometres, even hundreds of kilometres in some cases. We just didn't have it, you know, but now we have it since approximately 1997, and it's got so many people concerned. They've been researching into it, looking at whatever information they can find. And it seems like we're looking at a chemically induced climate forcing program, creating these contrails, these persistent contrails. This is just not what we always used to see. And anyone can go and have a look at books pre-1997 about France, and there's lots of them because it's the most visited nation on the planet. And you can find no contrails in the skies, and normal looking clouds. And we used to have 4 distinct seasons, and that's all been changing. And it's not because of anthropogenic global warming, because that's a fraudulent bloody claim by the New World Order globalists that you know, sweetened the climate industry by giving them loads of money. Bill Gates, you dodgy man. And we got a clear-cut case of something going on in the atmosphere that was not going on before. New types of clouds, massive increase in contrails and the contrail cirrus clouds, and it's affecting the climate. NASA have done investigations. Many other institutions have done the investigations. It's not actually up for debate. We know it affects climate. I think it can have a cooling and a warming depending on the time of day and the weather conditions at the time. What's going on? You know, but we have a situation where our governments are lying to us. We're being deceived. You know, what's new there? That's what governments do, isn't it? They lie. That is what they do. Who could trust a politician? You know, let's face it, they're all liars. Very few of them are good, aren't they? I guess there must be some. I live in hope, but many of them are not. And it looks like that plane there. Is there a switch-on point there? Because now it's got a very long trail and it's staying long, it's staying persistent, it's doing something. So that's interesting, isn't it? It's time to wake up, my friends. And you know, it's so ridiculous. When we look there, there's a plane there with a shorter dissipating trail. And I can hear the debunkers now going, it's a different altitude. Oh, you guys are so nauseous. Total denial, but I don't believe it's denial. I think it's willful ignorance. You are working for the establishment. No, it's had a turn off. Look, something's changed. Interesting, isn't it? So this trail will be left behind, and that will become persistent there. Oh yeah, because that's just because there's more saturated ice in that area, isn't there? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the special atmospheric conditions, even though it only affects some planes and some contrails and not the other ones. It is so nauseous. We have to deal with the distractions, the lies, the ludicrousy. This is ludicrous. This is really terrible. So now we have a persistent contrail left in a specific area, and the planes, that particular plane there is now leaving a shorter one. Is it getting longer as well? What's going on there? So there you have it. Come on. You go. How can that be true? How can that be true? Something extra has to be in the fuel or added to it, because it's not in the atmosphere, is it? It's not atmospheric conditions. Not at all. So that other plane that's passing through that region of atmosphere there, why isn't that one suddenly leaving a great big long persistent contrail? If it's atmospheric conditions and it's just normal condensation, why isn't it doing exactly the same thing? And it's not. Okay, it's not. And that's because it's pretty obvious there's something different in the fuel, or there's something added into the exhaust plume. There is a chemtrail. That's a chemtrail. They're chemtrails. They're deploying material there for a reason. And it's not just an accidental byproduct of normal jet travel. Something is going on, and we believe it's a climate forcing program to create the symptoms of an anthropogenic global warming, and so that the globalists can learn to own the weather, so they can bring about the New World Order via Agenda 21 and all the various different climate laws and all the treaties, global treaties that will have to be signed, the first global threat that will get all the people of the world to agree to a New World Order.